Hi, this is Edith from the Center for Teaching and Learning. This video is part 2 of the Early Alert System. If you haven't already, log into MyKCC and go to the Retention tab. Anything that has to do with early alerts will be found under the Retention tab. So if you make that association right away, Retention Early Alert, you're off to a good start. First thing I'm going to do is do an overview of the dashboard and then kind of give you an idea how you can use the tools here. So you can come here and search for a particular student, and you can get any information about that student regardless of who put in an early alert, or if you want to just follow up on the early alert that you have created. There are 3 main tabs. Main Actions is the same as what you see here on the dashboard. It's just links to those specific areas. And students, if you go into students, you can actually get a list of all the students attending Klamath Community College and actually click on those students and get more information, whether they have an early alert or other information maybe that other instructors are having with the student. My recommendation when going into the students area is just to focus on those students that you have interaction with or students who are in your course. So for the dashboard, you can add an action. Here you can go in and you can submit an early alert. That is the same as if you go over here and click on the early alert messages. You get the same information. You can add an intervention. So if you have communicated with the students, you haven't done a follow-up yet, that's what an intervention is, by the way, is a follow-up. You can actually go in there and put some more information in there. Perhaps the student has been attending class, or their grade has gone from an F to a C, or they're just doing better overall and you want to close out the early alert. You can do that through the Add the Intervention area. You can also send an email directly to the student, or you can add a note to the intervention as well. So if there's something else you want to add, maybe you left something out or something else happened since then, you can actually add the note. An open alert, that's how many alerts are open with the retention management team. Our management team is very good at communicating with the students and finding out what's going on and giving them recommendations for resources or helping them withdraw from a class perhaps that they are not going to be able to complete. Follow-ups. When you submit an early alert, you will be required to follow up with those early alerts, and you can find out which early alerts you need to follow up on. They will show up here. It's just, again, adding an intervention saying that I did talk with the student, this is what we've come up with, or I didn't talk with the student. Whatever the case may be, just make sure that you follow up. If you're going to close the early alert, you can do that there as well. Recent interventions is just about interventions that happened recently, and that's for the campus as a whole. Recently closed alerts, this is the retention management team showing you how they are resolving the early alerts and how many they've closed. Last but not least is the recently closed follow-ups. Again, how many have been closed recently, so you can kind of get an idea of how many students have been successful in either getting their work up to date or withdrawing from the class that they are having issues in. We can go in here and we can submit an early alert. Like the previous part 1, if you haven't watched it, I do recommend it, but I will go over the main highlights. You can click on Add a Student. If you click here and add a student, if you have a course, you can click right here and your course should show up there, and then you can select a student from there. And then click on Add Selected Students. And then once you get in here, again, if you didn't put the course in before, you can actually select a course. You can select the type of relationship you have with your student, what kind of concern. With severity, it's recommended that you use low or moderate and save high severity for those instances where it is really important that something gets taken care of right away. Put information about the interaction with the student. Do not use the student's name or ID number in here. You can violate FERPA information. Plus, this is also part of their permanent record, and so anything that goes into this early alert also is available to that student, so you just want to make sure that you keep it very generic. If you interacted with the student, click on yes and add the information here about the student, what you've done with the student, how you've communicated with the student. Give more detail down here, again avoiding student name and ID number, and click on Submit Early Alert. If you have not interacted with the student, just click on No and then Submit Early Alert. If you have been tasked with a follow-up or an intervention, click on Add Intervention. Select the student who you're doing the intervention for. Click on the student's name in general and click on Continue. You will get a similar type of form as the initial early alert that you filled out previously. So you want to give the same information here. And again, avoid using the student's name or ID number in the text box and click on Add Intervention. You can also send an email directly to the student. Click on Send Email. Select the student's name. You will get a new dialog box. Select whether you want to use a template for the email or not. Right here, we have an attendance email. And then you want to choose your relationship with the student. And then click on this student in general and click Compose Email. You will get the template right here, and this just gives the student information about what they can do in order to resolve the situation with you. Most likely contact you, but also gives them information about withdrawals as well as the resources available here on Klamath Community College. And then click Send. If you want to add a note to an early alert, click on Add Note. Click the student's name. For more information about when to add a note, click right here, when to add a note, and it'll give some more information here on why you would add a note to that. And then you can go ahead and put in the subject and date and time. Again, not using student's name or ID number. And then click Save Note. It is important to close out any early alert if the student is catching up in class and you feel that they have met the requirements that you set for them to be successful in the class. A side note, just remember that only during the first week of the term is when a drop and no-show is available in the early alert system. Any other time after that first Friday, it is no longer available and students will have to withdraw. If you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, you may contact the Retention Management Team or the Center for Teaching and Learning at ctl@klamathcc.edu. Our direct phone line is 541-880-2374 or extension 374 from your office phone.